Namaste, Dharatula. Welcome to Indian Minds in Finland, the YouTube channel that showcases the vibrant Indian community living, working, and thriving in the land of in thousand lakes. I'm your host, Dr. Karthik Sindhya, and I'm excited to bring you inspiring stories, heartfelt journeys, and the incredible contributions of Indians to the Finnish economy and society. So let's dive in and celebrate the fusion of Indian and Finnish cultures. Hello, Asha. Welcome to Indian Minds in Finland YouTube channel. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, Karthik.
Yeah. Mm, so let's start with your background and how your journey has been to the current role.
Yep, first of all, thanks for having me here. Um, I'm Asha, and I have completed my master's from IIT Bombay and my PhD from Curtin University, Australia, and both majoring in civil engineering. So, for those who know and who are in civil engineering, they all know that cement is like quite notorious because it's responsible for causing more than 8% of the global carbon emissions. So my research was mainly focused on finding some sustainable alternatives to the cement and mainly to reduce its impact. So even during my PhD, the most interesting part for me was like technical communication and like writing. And I felt that there is a huge need for us to communicate these technical things to various stakeholders in the industry so that we can see them finally in practice. And there is a great like gap between the technical communications right now because it's in the form of journals mostly, and this is not quite easily accessible for all of them. So my main job in this, my current role as a technical communication person in One Click LCA, is that I'm involved in the research and production of technical content, mainly educational content, with a focus to make these professionals understand the need and also the business value for the sustainable construction, things like life cycle assessment and environmental product um, declarations, and integrates them into their strategies. So, yeah, that's in short my current role.
Okay, maybe we just go few things back. So you studied your masters at IIT Bombay, and then you went to do your PhD in Australia. So how was that journey? What did you do after, and then how did you land up in Australia?
Right. Yeah, that's a question I get asked often. In IIT Bombay, I was doing my master's in geotechnical engineering. Um, and like, mostly in the first year, you have to do a lot of coursework. And in addition to all the conventional coursework you do in civil engineering, I took up an advanced course known as Environmental Geotechnics. So the course is very interesting that it showed how like engineering and environment actually interacts. In design, we always design things and then don't think about what happens in the future, like how it interacts with the environment. But this course was really eye-opening for me because I never realized that material that we design with, like cement and steel, have so much impact on the environment. So that is when I started to do my research in my second year at IIT. Like we had to do a thesis, research thesis, and I chose to find the sustainable alternatives to cement. And that progressed to my PhD. Like I collaborated with my professor in Curtin University. Like he visited the IIT lab once, and then we had an interesting discussion on how to take this forward. And at that time, he was doing a very interesting project in Australia using these sustainable bio-based binders for soil stabilization, mainly as alternatives to cement. And then I applied and ended up there. So yeah, that's my journey so far.
Yeah, so I think so your concern with the environment quite started quite early in your masters, and so you have progressed through that. But how is Australia as a place in the subject of sustainability? So is there major focus on sustainability there? And is there, can you enumerate a little bit about it?
Sure. So, in terms of sustainability, like Australia's still, it's it's um, like striving towards reaching there, and it's started a lot of things like incorporating things into their roads and things like that. But still, at a regulatory level, I would say that they are much behind, like other countries like Nordics and France and UK, for example, where they already have regulations to control these emissions, or they are coming soon, like in the UK. But in Australia, they are, I think, working towards regulation, but not there yet. So after my PhD, like I worked on a very small a project with the Western Australian government on using these recycled materials like plastics and recycled food waste, and using them into a Australian road project. So I would say that they are still trying to do a lot of things on circularity and using these recycled materials in their projects and roads and things like that in construction. But in the regulation kind of scenario, they are still like to catch up with the other countries. But
Yeah.
I think it's a positive sign they are starting to work towards that.
Okay. Yeah. That's quite nice. And then from Australia, you came into Finland, and then so in Finland, you joined the current company, is it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So what does if I have not if not answered before, so what does your company actually do in Finland?
Yeah, so I work for One Click LCA, which is a Finnish company, and they're the developers of this leading construction lifecycle assessment and EPD software, and also provide services, consulting, and also do a lot in the educational landscape. Like our mission is to strive for a zero carbon future. So
Mm,
with that, it's not just restricted to selling the software. We are also very much focused on training people and educating the professionals, and making them understand that there is a huge need for LCs and EPDs, because in order to like reduce the impact from the construction sector, so first we have to measure it. Like, you know very well that we can't reduce anything that we can't measure, right? So
mm,
that is where this LC comes in. So LCA is a very science-based method for measuring the impacts from that comes from buildings, and EPD is a very similar term for measuring the impacts that come from products. Like I said, cement. So that is one of the product. Steel. So all these products, like we use EPD as a standard term to measure these impacts. Um, yes.
mm. If we move to kind of next question, so at your company, are there any cross-country learnings with India or synergies you observed?
Yes, we are working very closely with India, mainly in training professionals. Like last year, we trained more than 10,000 professionals in this construction sector on LCA and EPD, and a lot of them coming from India, mainly the Indian Green Building Council. So we are closely collaborating with them. And also, we also have this summer schools, like which is a fun kind of learning sessions, especially for graduates, upcoming graduates in civil engineering, and who are like ready to face the industry. So for training them and making them aware of sustainability, LCA and EPD, we regularly host these summer schools, and which is quite popular among Indian students. Like a lot of them have joined and given us very positive feedback on them.
Okay, that's so. Is it mainly online, or is it do they have to travel here?
Yes, so yeah, to make this learning accessible to all, so it's made online, and we have it in many time zones. Like we have it in the uh, APAC region time zone, and MENA time zone, and Asia Pacific, and so that everyone can join. And like the time zone is not a hindrance for learning.
I think you mentioned quite a number of times about LC and EPD. So to understand what sparked your interest in these topics and sustainable construction materials, especially.
Yeah, now I think everyone is like so like seeing in the news every day these days that the global temperatures are increasing, and then we have floods, hurricanes, and like you said, like extreme heat waves in India. All those things are mainly due to this climate change. And like the IPCC, which is a body for the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, So they have, in their recent report, very clearly stated that human activities are responsible for these changes that's happening in the environment, like the ice caps melting and temperatures rising. Everything is the consequence of our emissions. And out of this, like the construction industry is responsible for 40 percentage of the emissions, which is like a huge number. And like there has been a lot of discussion, like what can we do? Like some people say we should stop eating meat, we should drive electric cars, but it's like very well documented that the impacts we construction professionals have in our field is like 1,000 times more than when we like reduce meat consumption or travel by electric cars. So which means that our industry is playing such a huge role in these contributing to these emissions. So this was like a eye opener for me. Uh, and I realized that, like I said before, we can't reduce anything that we can't measure, right? In order to know anything, like we can always go ahead like thinking that, oh, we are not causing so much emissions. But when we actually measure it over some time, then we realize that, oh, how much we are actually emitting. So and then we need a constant a standard science-based method for measuring this, which is same across the globe, that it is not different among countries, different among cultures, and all those things. So that is when life cycle assessment comes in, so that it's uniform and standard method, like how you measure your weight or height or something like that. It's so standard. So this is I think at some point or the other, or any professional in the civil engineering industry has to think of their impact sooner or later. And once I realized that, I was like really interested in working towards this and educating and conveying this message to as many people in the industry as possible.
Indeed.
So yeah,
Yeah,
that's how I'm
in-
here.
indeed. I think it's a matter of concern to many countries who are developing. So because there is always in the developing countries there is a construction boom, and there's a lot of construction happening. So I think these these frameworks and methods are probably quite important, that the younger generation learns and use them and try to be more sustainable in their approach. How has your personal experience influenced this passion? Of course, you basically read it before, so were there any other trigger points you had?
So mainly, I would say it started with my education in IIT. So I had the privilege to work with one of the most eminent professors in the field of geotechnical engineering, Professor D.N. Singh. And so he was very committed to working for the environments. Like he used to take up a lot of consultancy projects. Like there was a river which was polluted in Mumbai. As you know, the level of pollution is like so
Mhm.
way high there. So he was really committed to finding solutions to reduce that, and it also came up many times in the news. And so from there, like I really imbibed his passion for working for the environment. Like that's something we engineers are responsible, and we are supposed to do that as engineers. Like we are not just supposed to construct something and forget about it. We also have to think about its impact, how it will influence our future generations, how it's going to influence the environment. So he taught me this very valuable thing, that you have to keep all this in mind as an engineer. So I
Indeed.
think, yeah, my passion started from there.
Yeah, I think it's a very nice point that you made, and I think sometimes if you talk about sustainability and circular economy, quite many different branches of engineering feel that it's something not for me. It's only for civil engineers or maybe things. But I strongly believe that each and every branch of engineering should be try to be more sustainable. So, and actually, you made quite nice points. Let's say, which was eye opener for me now because, as you said, we mostly think about more eye catchy topics of whether we eat meat or not, but probably there are more wider problems which has to be solved. Of course, every part is plays an important role, but
Right.
there do exist certain things like in sustainable material construction materials, which probably has much wider impact on the entire topic of sustainability. Indeed.
Right.
Yeah, and okay, I guess you already said to us that your company is mostly involved in educating and providing resources to the companies to be more sustainable. So let's say, how does your role in the current company contribute to the growing interest of sustainable construction and decarbonization strategies in Finland?
Yeah. So one thing that we do as a team is that we like provide regular updates to the community in terms of like various resources. But one thing I can highlight here is that we have an item called decarbonization news, which it's a weekly item which comes up in LinkedIn. So many countries are like regulating this. Emissions and embodied carbon, as you might have heard. And Finland is one of the leaders along with the other Nordic countries. So it's very important that the stakeholders, the engineers, policy makers, and consultants, and everyone is aware of these regulations. So through these news pieces, we kind of make this information quite easy and digestible for everyone, and so they can keep updated about what's coming and what's happening in their sector and in their respective landscape. And it also inspires other countries to push their boundaries, like you said, India, for example. So we can get inspired from the policies that the Nordics are doing, and then they can also push their sustainability strategies. So this is something that we are very proud of doing in our company. And another thing I was involved is during my first year at One Click LCA, I was also responsible for developing an ebook on building LCA, why it matters and how to use it. So it's a very easy kind of guide for various stakeholders like engineers, architects, to understand what this is and how they can use it in their day-to-day job. So those are the two things I can highlight from the past few years.
Mhm. So, yeah, how is this newsletter? Is it something? Is it open for everyone, or is it
Yes,
to?
yes. If you subscribe to One Click LCA LinkedIn, you can get these regular updates.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's good. Indeed. And yeah, some of these topics we talked about, but still, in your experience, what are the key factors driving this interest in these topics, and how does these factors align with country's sustainability goals?
Yeah. So now, like, you can get information everywhere, right? It's accessible to everyone who has internet. So I would say the most important factor is that the increasing awareness of people, and they really understand the consequences of what we are doing, like our impacts, and how it is leading to things like the global climate crisis and all these extreme events. So this has again in turn led to many countries, like I said, Nordics, France, now US, and UK soon. All these countries are regulating their emissions from the construction sector, and they've made it like mandatory that buildings should conform within so much limits, and new construction should all have certain cutoff limits. And so this in turn again sparks interest among the various stakeholders, like the policy, local policy builders, and the construction people, and the architects and engineers. So all of them have to again abide by these regulations, which again spark interest among those communities. So I would say that, yeah, the raising awareness is again contributing to the regulation, and that in turn is contributing to increasing awareness.
Indeed. Yeah. So, if I may just ask, like, okay, if a new builder is trying to build something, so now we are providing him some information. What does he do? Does he have to do LC, or is it more about what are the choices he makes during building which affects him? And do you think the builders currently are using such material before they are building these huge constructions?
So how it is in many countries is that even to get a building permit, you have to show that your building will give only this much emissions, or it's within that range. Like, for example, like a 2000 meter square building should have X amount of emission. So only if you show that, and the person with maybe a least emissions get the tender. So that is how it's going to work
Okay.
in many countries.
Mhm.
And this in turn inspires the engineers and designers to look at sustainable materials and alternatives. So how will they bring this emission down? It's by
Okay.
choosing more eco-friendly materials, sustainable materials. And again, this information you get from EPDs, and by doing an LCA, like the entire emission from a building, you have to do an LCA to find that. And how will you get this information to do an LCA? You need EPDs. So that's again the entire picture, how the story unfolds.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you are not directly like in many cases like compelled to do an LCA, but in order to abide by the regulations, indirectly you have to do an LCA. So that's how
Okay.
many rules
That's
function.
indeed. So, have you seen a rise in alternative construction, sustainable construction materials these days? So, is there a boom in this sector?
Yes, of course. Lot of companies and uh, companies are coming with this innovative solutions. Like you can now. Previously, there used to be like maybe certain like concrete C40, C30 concrete, which has certain strength, but now you have like concrete with recycled aggregates. Which have lower emissions, and then concrete with GGBFS. That's a type of substitute material, which again reduces the impact. So
Mm,
even in concrete, even in a material like concrete, there are so many sustainable options for professionals to choose from, which is a
mm,
very promising sign, I would say.
indeed, indeed, indeed. So, who are the let's say if we go to the next question, so who are the main stakeholders in Finland that are impacted by your work promoting LCA, EPD, and these construction sustainable practices? And do you have any examples how how these things have made a difference?
Yes, so for building LCA, mainly the stakeholders are, like I said, consultants, builders, contractors, architects, engineers, like all of them. The
Mm,
entire supply chain have to actually have some, at some point, have uh, contact with LCA. And in terms of EPD, it's mainly for the manufacturers and also consultants. So our like our job is to make this information as easy and clear for them as possible, like how to do an LC, how to make an EPD. So these are the questions they come up with, and how we can help them in that process.
mm,
Um, so in especially in my role, like I create a lot of materials to help them understand this, like how to do an LC, why do you need to do it, how why do architects need to do an LC, and what are the things they should keep in mind while doing an LC. So like I said, one example was the building LCA ebook my team and I developed. So this is the main aim was to make this information accessible for everyone and easy for them to comprehend.
indeed. Yeah, but coming away from this on a broader topic, so how has your work in Finland helped you connect with professionals from different backgrounds? So has it been easy or has it been difficult? And have you created a community around you? And what impact do you think has it made on you?
Yeah, honestly, coming from an academic background, initially this was a bit challenging because you know very well that you're confined to your team and your research group and scholars, and you don't interact that much with people who are actually doing this in practice. So that's, I think, the most important and eye-opening thing for me, that I got to interact with these people from diverse backgrounds, such as like architecture, consulting, from a small firm to large firm, manufacturers. So all of their level of understanding of EPDs and LCA varies, and their like technical expertise and what they are majored in and skilled in, that also varies. So how I learned how important it is to communicate this differently to each stakeholders. Uh, but one interesting and great thing is that all of them are dedicated to this uh, greater good, like in Harry Potter, you would say everyone works towards this common good or greater goal, that we need a zero carbon future and we need to protect our environment. So I think that mission is very strong in the community, and that helps all of us to come together and work together as a team.
Yeah, that's you have been traveling, let's say this is probably three continents, uh, and, and and you have been successfully able to integrate within the society now and trying to make the best use of it. So what advice would you give to other professionals considering to move to Finland to have a career in this? Do you think there is a great opportunity here where they could learn and also contribute uh, to the wider society?
Of course, yes. So I can mainly say from my field, because I'm not an expert in other fields. So I can, my advice will be that to all the aspiring civil engineers out there is to um, involve this sustainable thinking into your daily work practices, because at some point or the other, like the industry, whichever industry you're working on, like may it be from India or from Finland or somewhere else, you have to start thinking about sustainability and considering sustainable aspects of design. um, so I think, however small it might be, I encourage you to start thinking that way. Like, what impacts do your work have in terms of sustainability? And Nordics, especially Finland, is the right place to be if you're interested in this field, because there are so many opportunities and interesting positions that come up here, mainly because the government is pushing a very ambitious climate goal, and they are striving really hard to reach that sooner, or uh, much sooner than the date, maybe. So I think this is a right place to be.
Yeah, I think I would say so too. Indeed. So, but if we come to our last question here, so maybe we move away from sustainability, but trying to see more about your memorable experiences in Finland, and how you feel that you want to showcase a positive impact on the Indian community here.
Yeah, so again, sorry for again talking about sustainability, but yeah, I think you can't talk about Finland without talking about its nature. So I think the best part of being in Finland is to you get to enjoy the beautiful, pure nature, and and I really like the people, their love for nature and their real passion to preserve it. So again, I feel that. It's my responsibility as a construction professional, that we keep this nature as beautiful as it is for our future generations to also enjoy. And as an Indian, like I'm really proud and honored to be given this opportunity to serve Finland, and not just Finland, but help construction professionals across the globe to reach this mission. So yeah, and I would always like thank India because the education I got there was the stepping stone that led me to being here. The education in my bachelor's and again in IIT, which really open up your perspective, and you get to interact with professors from so much wide knowledge and passion that really helped me reach here. So yeah.
Indeed, it's a privilege to be associated with some of the institutes of national importance, and you indeed get quite a valuable education in studying them. And I'm happy that you you came here, and then you have been able you were able to find a place here and also valuably contributing to society in your own way. Before we wind up, so you said that you run these courses quite often. So do you want to provide more information, maybe to somebody who is seeing this channel? So is there a place where they would go and look at, or or where do they find this information?
Yes, so we have a website exclusively for trainings. So it's oneclicklca.com. So there you can go and enroll in all these courses for free. Like we have summer schools very soon, like running for the uh, and for building LCA and EPD quite soon. So you can go there and register for any of these courses like for free, and you get to interact and talk with our experts, like they are leading experts in LCA and EPD, and you can ask questions and they give you like live sessions and things like that. So yeah, I encourage all of you to go and sign up at oneclicklca
Yeah, I can
academy.com.
put them below on the YouTube channel, and if people want to go and look up, and they could do.
Yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
thanks, Asha, for a valuable interaction, and I'm sure this would be helpful for the broader community.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks, Karthik. Thanks for having me here.
Bye.
Bye.